What up, friends? Good hanging with you again. It's fun to just be able to sit and think and share some ideas and stuff. I've been taking questions as a way to do it. Questions for me, I like to dig down rabbit holes and go really deep on things and go off on weird tangents. Questions are often just starting points for me to meander and think. And the fact that you want to hang out and listen to them is really, really cool. And I appreciate it greatly. Let's just get into the questions. All right, ADH0A9. Robin, please talk about not hurting training partners in martial arts. Importance of letting holds go, not finishing submissions. Got my ankle popped on an open mat. Felt like it was really Bush League. I'm positive though, I promise. All right, he mentions positive because we got a positive vibe around here. Not always, nobody's positive all the time, but in general, we're trying to look for a good perspective in things, so I appreciate that. So letting holds go. So if you do any kind of martial art, this is specific to jiu-jitsu or wrestling or whatever, you do any kind of martial art, your sort of training partners, even if you think of it as your opponents, they are very much working with you, right? You cannot, never mind training. Let's jump ahead for a second. This is like the tangents I like. Think even of your opponent. You're in a tournament or a conflict, controversy kind of, competition. That's the word I was looking for. You're in a competition. Your, quote, opponent is a partner, right? He's a part. Yes, you have conflicting objectives, but he's a partner in that you are not going to be able to express your skill, show your training, do your thing, create a great moment, overcome anything without this person, right? So they are your competitor, but they are also a partner. You don't want to hurt these people. The objective of competition, never mind training, we'll get to that in a second. The objective of competition is not to injure somebody, not to do harm to somebody. The objective is to express your skills freely, to compete, in part to also win, right? We're looking to win. That is not our primary objective. Our primary objective is to perform really well. If we do that, the consequence is winning. That applies to a lot of things in life, by the way. Maybe we'll talk about it a bit more later, but don't think about getting the job. Think about having an amazing audition, right? Don't think about, getting rich. Think about being really good at what you do, That works for most things, and it works for fighting and competition too. Winning is a consequence of doing well. So the goal is to do well. When training, man, I was training the other day. I want to give a shout out to my friend Michael Kroger. He plays bass in Nickelback. He was in town and I took him out to train. And Michael is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a good martial artist, good dude. And he said, I don't do any sort of free rolling in jiu-jitsu when I'm on tour. And I said, why? He said, well, there's 40 families that rely on me. If I hyperextend my arm and I can't play bass and we have to cancel a show, all of those people may not get paid and their families rely on me, and I can't do that to them. That's one example. It's an extreme example, but most everybody there, when you were training martial arts, has something else going on in their life other than sitting on a mat with you wearing a gi that hopefully they washed, right? Whether they got to go to school tomorrow, they got a job, they got kids, they got whatever, they're not coming here to get injured, right? And that applies to my friend at ADH0A9. He's living his regular life and he loves training. Somebody, popped his ankle the other day. You don't need to do that, right? You need to take care of each other, right? It is one of the highest levels of importance when you are training a physical act with another human being to protect each other, right? So, and think about it, there's a very small amount of people who train martial arts who plan to be professional martial artists, fighters, very small. There's a, also measurable amount that act like they are going to be UFC fighters. And those are the people that kind of sometimes hurt people. You don't have to hurt each other. Did you see the video of the guy? He's in a triangle and the other guy is up here and he gets his arm broken. He goes to sleep in this triangle. I actually looked for it today. I don't see it anywhere on the internet, and maybe that's a good thing because it's super gross. But if you find it, Chase, maybe drop it in, but let's not overdo it. But there's a guy caught in a triangle, and the guy is here, Guy is here, and he goes out. Now his face is looking away. People were all so mad at the guy who did it. Really, it's the ref. We don't need to be mad, right? Being angry about things we watch on videos is not a super logical thing. But if you're going to be mad at somebody, the ref maybe would be the guy. The guy who now the arm is up and he goes to hyperextend the arm over the fulcrum of his leg. His face is looking away, so the guy actually can't see that he's asleep. You also don't feel him go limp because his body is already extended, right? Then he breaks the arm. It's really, really gross. Now that's in competition. Again, we don't need to break this guy's arm in competition. If the ref had noticed he was asleep, the arm wouldn't have broken. But yeah, it happens, but man, you gotta take care of each other. Martial arts is a dangerous thing, and regular moms and soccer dads and regular people with real jobs and real families, they are not. Yeah, there's such wonderful things about martial arts. Going to get fit, forget about life, learn a new skill, gain confidence. There's all these great things. Getting your arm broken or your ankle popped or whatever is not why you go to martial arts. So take care of each other, okay? KD Gore, was that brawl and chokeout at Karate Combat real? What are your thoughts on extracurricular combat? Acceptable? Or nah. Okay, so it's a couple weeks ago now, and Chase, you can drop it in if you feel like it. It's just for the drama, right? You see a coach come running over. Actually, what happens first is the fighter who has won is now free to express himself. And while expressing himself, whether he points at his crotch or he makes faces at the corner or whatever, for whatever reason he wants to, let off some steam. He felt the corner disrespected. Whatever reason he's doing that, I don't know, but he's just want to fight. That's his right? A corner of the vanquished fighter starts screaming and running and then comes running across and throws himself into the pit and loses his mind and ends up actually being choked out by Awesome, who is the president of Karate Combat and a good friend. So, was that real? Yes, that was 100% real. The coach got very emotional and he lost control of himself. Now, so Awesome actually after was talking about it. I saw a few clips after and he was like, he's welcome back. And I think that's great. At the time I was like, that guy should be banned for life. But he's like, I understand and welcome back. Awesome and I agree on many things and a lot of things. And we're actually very good friends in real life. We're friends at work, but I understood him and analyzed him as the coach of Goat Shed and the strategies of Goat Shed way before anybody. So I recognized that he is a master strategist and a fascinating thinker early, and we became friends. And we agree on many things. Where I disagree with him on this one, he was sort of saying that, I understand, this is the emotion business. Actually, I don't disagree with that. It is the emotion business. The part I would like to add is that we martial artists and all people are in the business of learning to control our emotions. That is the quest, right? That's the quest for a martial artist, and it's, I dare say, a quest for all of us. Let's take this to the root, right? And again, I'm not mad at the coach. I understand now, time has passed. He ended up being corralled by security, choked out by Awesome, and later talked about it. And he's welcome back, and no hard feelings, no judgment in the end. We're all just people doing the best we can, so no judgment. But I will offer this thought. Afterwards, he was like, well, this happened, and I wouldn't change anything because I'm a ride, paraphrasing, I'm a ride or die guy, and I got your back, and this is disrespect, and when there's disrespect, I have to behave this way. What I would offer to him, kindly and in, not in it, again, no judgment, is that if what you're saying is, when I find myself in a situation where somebody has created what I perceive as disrespect or some sort of perceived injustice, I have no ability to do anything other than whatever stimulus response animal behavior I have in me. And if that means that through somebody's behavior, so what somebody does, I will then have no choice but to put myself in situations where I lose control, perhaps, negative consequences come to me or my team. Well, that's how it is. And that's the part where I'll disagree, in a friendly manner and disagree in a way where I think, I'd like to propose or challenge anyone who thinks this way to think a different way. And what I mean by that is stop again and think, well, if this person disrespects me, I will just do what I'm going to do, no matter what the consequences will be. Perhaps somebody will get hurt, perhaps I will lose my job, perhaps I will be embarrassed, perhaps who knows what will happen, but I do not have the ability to do anything other than when this stimulus happens, my response will just happen. That is not what we are. That is not what humans are. We all have the ability to look at something. We don't have the ability to control what our opponent may do. We don't have the ability to control how the weather will be. We don't have the ability to control what technology is going to wear. Nothing. There's very little we have the ability to control. But we do have the ability to control and influence ourselves in the way we respond to those things. That's literally the root of all human freedom. And what is that great book? It's Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning. Brilliant book. And it was written by a man who was studying human behavior and kind of had studied emotion and a lot of things as a very, I believe a PhD in psychology, who went through, imprisonment and, the Holocaust. And while going through that, what he discovered at the root of all human freedom is our ability to control how we perceive the world around us. And it's one of the greatest books that you'll ever read in your life. Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl. That's what it is. Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl found himself imprisoned and in a death concentration camp during the Holocaust. And through that process came out with a completely different view of how humans experience, fear and worry and happiness and just how we interface with the world around us. And it comes down to the only freedom that we really have is the freedom to decide how we respond to things, how we interpret things, the perspective through which we view things. And if somebody's going to, and this is something that is happening all over the world, children, adults, countries, somebody did a perceived injustice, therefore I must respond. I must respond with anger, I must respond with frustration, I must respond with aggression, whatever. They did a thing, or even I perceived that they did a thing. And I have no ability to do anything other than respond back. Maybe do it worse, maybe do the same, maybe be angry, freak out. That guy cut me off in traffic, now I'm mad. To improve your own life is to improve how you respond to these things. And the root of that, and if we take it back to a coach freaking out after a fight in karate combat, if he cannot, his life will improve, as all our lives will improve, if we go back and train our ability to control and interpret how we respond to things. We cannot control the world, but we can control how we respond to things. And it is something that we can all try to strive for. Certainly it's connected to martial artistry. It's connected to searching for mastery in anything. You want to be the best podcaster in the world? This is going to be a part of that journey. You want to be the best gardener on planet Earth? It's going to be part of it. You want to be a happy human being? You want to be a great father? Whatever it is, it's going to come down to you cannot control the world around you, but you can learn to control how you respond to these things. And so that was what I took out of that. Again, that was a very real, raw situation, which is why people responded, positively and negatively to it, why these things end up being viewed and shared and all that as part of the world that we're living in. Powerful emotional responses actually create engagement in news and sports and fighting and art and whatever. Powerful emotion engagements do that. And I get that. And that's why, people watch the news, and that's why moments where a coach becomes emotional and gets choked out will become shared, and that's all part of the world we live in. But you don't have to live that way, and no one's going to get it perfect. So I'm going to leave here today with this idea in my mind, something that I think about and I've read about and has made my life better. And at some point today, I'm going to respond poorly to some situation. But it's a process, and it's a practice. You work on it. You develop it. And as a coach and a martial artist and any type of artist, anyone searching for mastery, this has to be a lifelong practice. And so when you freak out under a situation and bad consequences come to you or those around you, you endanger other people or whatever, I believe we could all go back and go, maybe I would do it differently. I would learn to realize, because let me throw it out a different way. This is something that I think Boss Rutan has kind of taught me. Boss Rutan's perspective might be, yes, you are a ride or die type, and yes, you will not accept disrespect to your team, and yes, there should be consequences. But if you practice your ability to control your emotions, you can calmly walk out of there and decide when and where and how you want those consequences to take place. Maybe you're just gonna, put something on the internet. Maybe you're gonna do something that I wouldn't do. I don't know what you're gonna do, but you'll get the choice to do it the way you want to do it if you're calm about it. This is not my perspective. I would say a guy did this or whatever he did. Don't be a baby and learn to control yourself, and don't embarrass your team and soil your fighter's scenario. But that's judgmental, and that's me taking my perspective, but whatever perspective you take, learning to view things with a calmer mind and make a decision on how and when and where and what you may do about it might be better. Anyways, no judgment, and in the end, I do agree with President Awesome that he should be welcome back, and that these are mistakes that we all made, and we have all made them, I don't know anyone who hasn't acted like an idiot at some point. I certainly have, and you have. You have. So we all have, right? So certainly no judgment. We're all human. But when we look at things after, we go, okay, where can I improve? Okay, I could improve my ability to see things as they are, and interpret them as they are, and choose later how I'll respond to this. Okay, we move on. At 5450, what do you honestly think of Jake Paul versus Mike Perry? What do I honestly think of Jake Paul versus Mike Perry? What do I honestly think of Jake Paul versus Mike Perry? I like it. I'd like it for them. Mike Perry is just a good dude, and he's a great fighter. He's a dangerous, violent, vicious, visceral fighter. And I love watching him fight. I also come around him at different times at different shows, and his wife and his kids and his family and the people around him, they're all great. Most people really like Mike Perry if you know him, and you certainly cheer for him if you know him, and you certainly love watching him fight. Jake Paul, I'm not only not bothered by Jake Paul, I find it fascinating. I think we're free to have hundreds of different perspectives on things, If you are well, I only like seeing the best fight the best. Okay, well, maybe this isn't the fight for you. Or, I hate Jake Paul, and I can't believe it. Okay, well, maybe this isn't the fight for you. I see Jake Paul, I look at him fascinatingly, and I look at what we can draw from watching him, right? I kind of look at them all that way. I really don't care who the greatest of all time is anymore, because in 16 weeks, it'll be somebody else, right? We're at a point where everybody's improving so much. And so I find Jake Paul to be fascinating from, he was a kid who worked in Disney, and then he learned and quickly understood YouTube and then business, and then imagine being successful already in things and saying, but what I really want to do is something way harder and more dangerous. That's cool. that's really cool. You're already like and some people see him and go, well, he's already rich. And I go, yeah, I mean, he's already rich. Like I remember sitting, so I used to be a musician, and in retrospect, like it was a pretty low level within the realm of the entertainment business. We loved doing it. I remember when I met Forrest Griffin, and I was just about to have my first MMA fight, and he was like, why would you do that? And I said, what do you mean? We're on a train together to a thing. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I assume you made a lot of money. And the truth is I didn't make a lot of money in music, but that wasn't why I did it. But his take was, if you're already successful at something that you don't get hurt in, and you don't, there's no chance of you waking up having wet yourself, being taken out on a stretcher, while people boo you and being embarrassed and injured and taking brain damage. Why would you do that? Right? That was Forrest Griffin's take. And my thought was, I just love this. And truthfully, I wanted the experience, but I wanted to be able to commentate fighting, which I do today. And I wanted to be able to sort of create around martial arts, which I do today. So for me, it ended up being worth it. But I did take a lot of damage, and I did sustain a lot of injuries, and it was really hard, and way harder than you think, and I thought. But so Jake Paul, already successful, already rich and famous, decides he's going to do something way harder, way more dangerous, with a way higher likelihood of becoming, hurt, ridiculed, ending up as a meme, unconscious, wetting his pants. Like all of those risks are there. And he decides he wants to pursue that. I think that's amazing. Then the next step in a Jake Paul thing is he then strategically finds ways to create the biggest fights possible. Involving the haters is a key to it. Because when you find a way to give yourself advantages, find smaller fighters or older fighters not in their prime, one, you give yourself the advantage, but two, you make haters engage, which makes you more money. So it's a brilliant, brilliant approach. To be able to make the fight easier and simultaneously make more money off it, that's a level of brilliance that most of us don't have. And even if you're going, yeah, but, and you're mad right now, you're part of it. Like, he's working you, right? He's not working me, because I'm just looking at it agnostically and going, oh, that's what he's doing. He's finding the most winnable fight that will also make the audience the angriest, thus making him the most money. That's really smart. I don't have a personal opinion about it. I don't have any emotional connection to it. And if you do, you're just helping him a lot. Like, you know what I mean? So you got that. And then in the end, okay, Mike Perry is a better fighter in many ways. He's more, experienced in many ways. He's definitely going to be the guy who hits harder than anyone who's hit Jake Paul. But he's smaller, right? Which gives Jake Paul advantages and makes haters angry, thus making him more money. So good for both of them. Mike's a good dude. Mike can knock out Jake Paul, and if he does, he goes from already being a hero to just being like a superhero. But even if he doesn't, he makes a couple $1 million, and him and his family are gonna really appreciate that going forward as a part of their life. It'll always be, and no matter what happens, Mike's gonna fight his fucking heart out, right? So it's all good for Mike Perry. This is the dirty little secret. And I have friends, I work for Jorge Masvidal, I commentate his shows, and I have a lot of friends that were involved in Nate Diaz's side of the fight. They just fought recently in the last couple of weeks. And the dirty little secret is, yes, Nate won, right? Jorge believes he won, and you watch it and you're like, yeah, I can see that for sure. He definitely hit him harder. But they both won. They both won. They got to create the fight they wanted against the person they wanted. They got to both get paid. They didn't get 13% of the gate or whatever that you get if you fight for the corporate. They got to build the entire business and build their own fight. They both won. The fight itself that is what we like. But the people fighting get they're involved in all of it. The money, the growth of the exposure, the hate in Jake's case, they get to be involved in all of it, right? So for these guys, it's great. And for both of them, it's great. And I'm happy for them both. I'm happy for Mike Perry's family. I have no dislike of Jake Paul. In fact, there's a lot of things about it I just look with awe and go, oh, I can't believe how smart that guy is. He's making all these people mad, and he's figured out how to provoke, and he might have a shot at increasing fighter pay in the UFC, and he's doing all these really wild things, and he's made people mad along the way. So I spent a lot of time going, man, that dude's smart. And then with Mike Perry, I just love Mike Perry. I think he's a great dude, and he's a great fighter. And I hope the world, people don't remember a lot of things. I was with George St. Pierre just a couple of days ago, and a lot of people won't even remember his fights, and he's the greatest, right? So I hope people remember one day that Mike Perry was a rare and special one. And I hope they have a great fight. I do hope Mike Perry knocks out Jake Paul, but it's not because I don't like Jake Paul. It's because I like Mike Perry, and how cool would that be? I'd love to see people freaking out and just sending all the hate to Jake Paul, who'd just drink it all up, because guys like him understand hate and love are actually identical. They're just engagement, and they just drive their business, right? You gotta understand that you're just being worked. They're milking your hate. I mean, literally milking it from you so that you drive their engagement. But yeah, good luck to both Mike Perry and Jake Paul, and I hope they have a killer fight, and I hope it's a lot of fun, and I do hope that Mike Perry knocks out Jake Paul. Okay, at model actor _on. What's your honest thoughts on UFC Fighter Pay? I mean, imagine, God, there's a lot to this. There is a lot to UFC Fighter Pay. In history, often the people doing the hardest work, the dangerous work, are not the ones making the money, right? So for being totally honest, the people who build the bridges that you just drove on today and the railroad tracks, they didn't make the most money. They did all the hard work. Some of them really had health problems and whatever, and they didn't make the most money. So there's a long history of this in civilization, right? And that's the case here. Can you have the UFC is a media business, right? It is a media company. It's a media company built around the product of fighting, right? If they were to answer you honestly and you said, what is the product? They would say, the show is the product and the content is the product. And the fighters would say, we're the product. And they correctly would say, you're not the product. The show is the product and the content is the product. You are working as part of the picture. I don't like that truth, personally, because the regular human in me would like to see the fighters get 50% instead of 13 or 16 or whatever they get. Like, why can't you just pay them more? And the answer is, because that's not how business works. But that's not a good thing. That's not something to be proud of. When you hear people, complaining about fighter pay or correctly saying that UFC fighters are underpaid for what they do and the damage that they take and how much they bring to it, you are correct. If you hear somebody else say, yeah, but Dana White did the thing, and if they are literally parroting the exact words of a billionaire or billionaire executives in defending the billionaires from paying the workers too much, they are kind of being manipulated by marketing and media and messaging and narrative, right? The key to being a successful business is you make as much money as possible and you cut costs as low as possible. So I hate that UFC fighters get paid so little compared to what they do. But I can understand how systems work, and that the system that we live in, businesses want to make the most money possible and pay the least possible. The key to keeping that is you have to keep public opinion on your side. And they're doing really good at that right now. You go on the internet and you hear a fighter who made $10,000 and got, a bone in his neck injured. You'll see dozens or hundreds of comments where the people commenting are literally parroting the words of the billionaire who is the face of that multi-billion-dollar company. If you can get the audience to parrot your words, you can keep public opinion on your side and you can keep paying them less. That's not a good thing. Don't defend that. Please don't defend that. Some people defend it because they're like, well, I don't make much money. Why the hell should undercard fighter, whatever? It's like, I mean, that's not a healthy way to look at the world, right? Like are they underpaid? Yes, they're underpaid. Is it going to change anytime soon? Unlikely, if they can keep the audience thinking that the billionaire's idea to keep the people who make $20,000 from becoming millionaires, if you're going to side with a billionaire against and a corporation against the workers who entertain you, then, and you're going to continue to do that, then fighter pay will never change. And so the UFC's done a very good job of maintaining public opinion to defend their practices to pay the fighters as little as possible. I hope that changes one day. I don't know how it does because they control the narrative so well and they control the messaging so well and they influence the audience so powerfully. But let's hope it changes because fighting is a dangerous sport. Dedicating your life to the art of combat and then putting your health and your body at risk for our entertainment, you should get paid more than, a school teacher, a first-year school teacher, if you have 2 fights a year. You should, okay? And I hope that changes. But it's not going to change if you keep defending corporations and billionaires and repeating their words. All right, last time we did this, we just randomly ended up on a super positive thing, and Chase and I were like, yeah, you know what, let's end on something very positive, or as positive as we can possibly, immerse ourselves in it, and as honestly as we can view it, every single episode. So I found one, it's very kind, actually. Zochiology Beauty. This was somebody who did my makeup for Karate Combat. Yes, I wear makeup at Karate Combat. I talked about it in the last episode. You are the kindest person. That's so nice. I loved working with you. Question. How do you remain so happy, kind, and attentive to people around you when you travel so much and you're away from your family? First of all, thank you. That's a very kind thing to say. And I think, I take that as a very big compliment. I think I'd like to think, if you found 100 people that I've worked with out in the world at shows and even people who work at the front desk of the hotel and my Uber driver and what, I'd like to think if you asked 100 of them, how did that guy treat you? I would like to think that like 80 of them would say, that guy was really nice. That's pretty good. If it was 93, I'd be delighted. I don't know, because a lot of the time you're just being a person and you could be distracted. And I've told this story before, but Joe Rogan is like the kindest guy that you're ever gonna meet. Like, I mean, he's incredibly generous and he's always been like that, at least in my experience and in the stories of dozens of people who've mentioned, we've had this conversation. And I've seen him tip people crazy amounts. I once saw him, I went to his show at the MGM Grand and I saw him stand there and sign every single autograph. At the time, this was post autograph, so it would have been photos. There was still answering machines, so he'd like leave messages on their answering or whatever, or he'd take photos with them. He did this for hours. All his friends were standing there, Joey Diaz and Cameron Haynes and a bunch of people, I was invited to come for dinner with his friends, which was very kind. And we're all standing around, and Joey Diaz exhausted. But they're not complaining because they know that's how Joe is, right? And so then he goes, all right, motherfuckers, let's go eat. And right across the casino, so you can see it, was Wolfgang Puck's restaurant. And he made a reservation for 15 or whatever. He had like 12 friends and him. And so he takes one step out onto the casino floor, and hundreds of people come over to him. I'm not shitting and not exaggerating, for sure an hour, I don't remember exactly, for sure an hour, honestly could have been 2 more hours. Every single person, he can't do this anymore obviously, but this was probably podcast 200 level Joe, UFC commentator, comedian, like he was huge, but it's even crazier now. But so he walks across and then he goes and same thing, every single person goes into the restaurant and there are a couple more people and then they go, Joe, we have your table. We're 4 hours late for whatever the reservation was, but he does shows there 5 times a year. I'm sure they know him and he takes care of them. Like I said, like at the end, I don't see the thing, but he pays for everyone's dinner and then tips a lot where people go, oh. and which he's just a good dude. So we go to sit down at the table. I've literally watched him take pictures with, no shit, 1,800 people. And he finally sits down, and this guy comes over and says, Joe, can I take it? And he goes, come on, man, I'm eating with my friends. And he was short with him. I remembered, I told this story back to Joe on his podcast once, and I said, and you said, fuck off, man, I'm eating dinner. He said, I didn't say fuck off. And I thought, maybe my memory was off, because even if he did, he just literally gave 4 hours to 1,800 strangers, just out of kindness and patience. But at the time he said, no, I didn't say that. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just said, come on, man, like, I'm eating with my friends. And that guy will be the guy who tells people Joe Rogan's an asshole. That guy, not the 1,800. Like, that guy will go, yeah, man, I tried to talk to Joe Rogan. He was like arrogant. And it's like, because that's part of the world, right? And talked about it earlier. You cannot control other people's opinions. You cannot control the world around you. You cannot control, time and space and technology and weather. And there's very little you can control. But you can control, the things you can control. How you think, how much sleep you get. Maybe you can't control that, actually. You can try. So you're not always going to get it right? And so you're not going to bat 1,000%. Joe was pretty close that night. It's pretty close. The closest I've ever seen personally up close. But yeah, you're not. But I would hope that if 100 people were asked, how did that guy with the weird hair, how did he treat you? I'd hope 80 or 90 were like, that guy was really kind. And in this case, my makeup artist that I worked with was like, oh, you were so kind. And it just makes me really happy. Like, that is one of the things you can choose, is to try to be kind to other people. And the way that you choose that is you start to think about what it might be like to be that person. They call it empathy, I think, is like one of the root descriptors of this. But if you look at another person, and instead of thinking what you want to say or what you need or what you want to tell them or whatever, you literally pause and go, I wonder what their day is like. And sometimes this is fun. This doesn't work perfectly by any means, but a lot of people like to do this. Just start to make up a cool little story. And the more you default to a pleasant story, the better. Although, so you can look and go, this is Chase. Chase has got 2 sisters. I know that actually about him, but it's like, he comes from Macedonia, and, he lives in a place, my dad had a hard day today. I wonder what his day was like. You do that at all with anybody. This guy, I wonder how long he's been driving an Uber. Does he have a family? And man, you gain more information about a lot of these things as you travel around in the world and stuff. I have a 2.5-year-old. I didn't know that everyone with a 1-year-old is exhausted to the point that they can't interact with the world around them. Like, they can't see and, can't think. And so when you see somebody and they're like, they don't acknowledge you or whatever, you could be mad, or you could go, hey, man, I wonder if that guy's got twins. Like, what if that guy's got 10-month-old twins? You start doing that, and all of a sudden the world gets a lot easier. Like, you look around, and if somebody's short with you and your default is, wow, what a dick, that's not going to help you that much, and it's not going to make any situation better. But if your default is, man, I hope that guy didn't just find out his mom has cancer. You can do that. Your day's going to get a lot better. Not that that would be sad, of course, but you've just found a reason that this person might have been that way that doesn't involve they're a terrible person. I've mentioned this before in different settings, but something that makes me sad is I'll see somebody have an outburst, say on the internet or something. I have a Facebook. It's at Robin Black Martial Arts. I put up my breakdowns there and stuff, but I don't actually use Facebook. Like, I don't go on there, and I'm not mad about the government, and I'm not like scrolling. I just don't do it. But Facebook, I do know that Facebook is one of those places where people can have meltdowns, right? And I know people that have, and I've had 4 of those or 5 of them in my lifetime, especially earlier in social media. We didn't understand what this stuff was doing to you. And if you're 19, you don't understand yet. Just understand it's doing a lot of shit to you. But you see that, and somebody might then go, well, they showed their true colors. Did they? Or is their true colors that they're a kind, sweet, generous, curious, frightened person? Sometimes frightened, sometimes happy, sometimes not sure, sometimes, they're a good person. They're doing good. And this was a bad moment? Because that's a much healthier way to look at somebody's worst moment or like bad moments. Like the coach in Karate Combat, I don't think he's a bad guy. They just freaked out. Normal people freak out sometimes. It's okay. Like, we'll just try to do better. It's one of those things. If you can look at it, this is not, oh, that's his true colors now. He was rude to that guy. That's who he is. That's not healthy. That's not going to do you good. If instead, I wonder if that guy's okay. Like, I got friends that, drink alone and go on Twitter. And sometimes it's sad. I'm like, oh man, I hope he's okay. I don't go, what a terrible human being. I go, that guy could be hurting. And so people who ended on this. We're looking for positivity, and I hope this is where we're leaving this. But people will ask me about, I don't get a lot of haters anymore. I probably do, but I don't see them. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of people like, that guy's the worst. Actually, every now and again I see it. When I work with Brendan Schaub, who's awesome dude. We worked on Jorge's last show together. Brendan, we were working together, people were like, these are the two worst. And I was like, how mean to Brendan. And Brendan's a great guy. He's a very skilled man. Well, we're on positive. Brendan Schaub was a high-level football player, a high-level UFC fighter, top of the heap podcaster, went from not ever telling a joke to a successful comedian, races trucks, is a father and a husband and a friend. Brendan Schaub is awesome. If you don't like Brendan Schaub, you got to examine what it is about, like, you take a second and look and go, wait a second, am I mad because somebody's having a good life? That's not healthy either. How are we going to wrap this up in positivity? Your perspective is going to be everything. And you can train it and practice it. You can work on it. You can slowly work on it. If I told you in 8 years or 3.5 years or 21 months that you would be so much happier than you are today and so much happier with the way you interact with the world today by just getting 15 minutes of exercise a day, drinking a lot of water, taking a bit of curiosity and meditation. You don't have to suddenly become a guru. Taking a little curiosity and meditation and slowly trying to get rid of the negative things. And there's a lot of them. Just get rid of them. Get rid of the news. Block very angry people on Facebook and Twitter and wherever else they are. And try to practice having a positive perspective. If I told you in 18 months your life would be way better, would you do it? Because your life will be way better, right? Positivity is like a real thing. And it's not a fake thing. It's not like pretending, turn that frown upside down. It's literally a practice. Seeing the world for its beauty and seeing the world for being curious about it all, and seeing the great things in the world and making a list of things. If you're only going to spend 5 minutes on this process, either in the morning or at night or both, write down 5 things that you're actually honestly grateful for. If you do that, your life will get better. Thank you for watching. I'm going to try to do like 2 or 3 of these a month, and watch for my lives too. I'm going to do a live Ask Robin Black 1 to 2 to 3 times a month as well. Thank you so much. Check out my Instagram at Robin Black Martial Arts and all my other shit. And appreciate you. Blackout.